one thing I really wanted to touch on was SBM Now,
Yeah.
which is obviously one of the current things that's going on, and I'm loving seeing you become like so involved in the show and so buying into it. It's just like it's so fun. You're the one who's clearly doing your homework. You tell them. You're always focused on every episode, but I'm really enjoying that side of it. And we did a really great um talk with Matt end of last year about fandom and about what fandom means to him. And he talked about, I mean, he's as big a fan of, his friends in the cast and fans as
Mhm,
we are of him, I guess.
mhm.
So for me, it's been really nice to see you kind of becoming a fan of something we're a fan of,
Yeah,
and actually
totally.
kind of understanding that kind of side of stuff. So
Yeah.
it'd be nice to kind of touch on, what you're enjoying about that, and maybe, your thoughts on fandom, how you feel becoming a bit of a supernatural fan, if you like.
Yeah, 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 it's been wild, I never thought that guess I wasn't, anticipating that, like you said, but I would buy into it that much, because it's
Mm,
hard when you worked on a show, you know
sure.
everyone in it, they're your friends. And I thought, oh, it'll be hard for me to lose myself in it, but I do find myself really losing myself in the show, especially the some of the episodes that are just really, really well done.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's been super fun, and it's, you go on this journey with those characters, and the wildest part is that then I pop up in it. Like, oh right,
Yeah.
I'm in the show. But it's been great. And like, our lives have been these conventions for the last 15 years. And
Mm.
and so it's fun to see it all in context,
Yeah,
as
totally.
opposed to sort of talking about sort of talking about like the character of Castiel like out of context. But if you're watching it in context, you start to piece it together like, oh, that's why this and that.
Yeah,
um, so it's been fun piecing it together and seeing it and watching it chronologically, and um, it's been great. And of course so fun to talk to our people that we don't always get to talk to about
sure.
what they did. We just interviewed Sebastian Roche, and
Yeah,
he I'd never really seen his stuff. I mean, I'd seen clips,
yeah,
but I've never really watched it. I didn't know his arc. I had no idea that he got killed at the end of season 6, and that's it. Like that was a big shock
yeah,
for me. But
yeah. They could have done so much more with his character. His character was so much fun.
totally. So yeah, so it was, it's been great. Like I said, just to sort of put it in context, um and it kind of makes everything start to make sense. You're like, oh right, because that's why this and that. It's really fun.
It had to be a relief that you actually are enjoying it, because I can't imagine signing on for it and
Right,
finding
and
out that
not
you
liking it.
actually, it was bad, and you were there every week trying to find
Right.
something polite to say about something that was appallingly done.
Yeah, honestly, it's been refreshing that we just finished season 6, and it wasn't our
Mm,
favorite season, but it actually was kind of refreshing to sort of critique it because we
yeah,
hadn't been critiquing very much because we've really enjoyed it so much. There hasn't
yeah,
been a lot. It's hard to find something negative so that it's not, you can't give everyone a perfect beard. So
yeah,
it's been kind of refreshing to go like, I actually didn't love that episode. Um, but yeah, no, and because I knew I'd like it because I was in it, and I was always
yeah.
impressed
You
with
know
the
the
writing.
production values.
Yeah. I think we all have that same experience. We got the job and then we start working on it, and you're like, wow, this is really good. This is better than your typical CW show. Um, so, not surprised, but it certainly does make it more pleasant to watch. But yeah, we've liked it so much. Like I said, it's refreshing that sometimes there are episodes that aren't as good, and you can,
Sure.
take it
Because
like any
with
show.
anything that goes on that long, there's bound to be, I think
Right.
there are seasons that I like less than others, and
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
then seasons that I love that I think aren't really thought of as the strongest
Uh,
seasons,
oh,
Like
interesting. Yeah.
13 is like one of my favorite seasons, but I think it's not one that everyone really loves.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But so has it changed? Do you think it's changed the way you view cons, knowing, feeling a bit more like an insider to the show and to the in jokes and the shirts and stuff like that that you see, and
You mean now that I'm watching it?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, a little. I mean, there are like little things, um, where, like I said, it makes sense where you get it on a different level.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, that's why, that's what the family business is, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, now I get that on a deeper level. Um, yeah, and sometimes you find yourself wanting to like ask the guys about, hey, so like when you went to hell, do you think that like you're wanting to ask them questions about their character? Um, but yeah, it like I said, it helps put it in context and to helps to understand things on a deeper level. Yeah, and it's amazing
Yeah.
that I've gotten by this long without having really sat down and watched the whole thing until now. There's so
Considering
much.
how many questions you get about it, that's
I
the
know,
thing
and
that
like
I find hilarious.
well, you start to piece it together just based on the questions, based on the fan videos they show. That's
Yeah.
a lot of it. Where you're like, oh, okay. And that's why I've said this before, but there's a shot of when Misha first gets on the screen and he's got the wings and lights are going, poof, poof, poof.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that like that they're on the other end, they're shooting at him.
Yeah.
I thought it was this glorious thing. Like now Castiel is with us, so we love him so much. And I had no idea that in context they're like, evil guy, and they're like shooting, shooting at him. So that, stuff like that, where you're like, oh, okay, that's or the fact that like the boys have, I'm always like, oh, the boys never die. Well, actually, the boys have both died a couple of times and come back.
Yeah, numerous.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah. So it's been cool. So.
It always makes me laugh when people come. You see people at cons kind of asking questions like they think that the cast have an encyclopedic knowledge of the entire series. It's kind of like, so they'll be like, Rob, why do you think this happened? And it's like,
Oh yeah,
do you
totally.
really think, unless someone's literally giving you a job to sit down, and who's got the time to sit there and watch that many seasons of a show?
Yeah, or understand that question, that dissecting it that much. Yeah,
Yeah,
Rich just won't bother answer. He'll just say like, "What do you think?" And I think
I know.
that's pretty good, because then the person asking the question knows more than you know. But
Exactly.
I always try to answer it and look like a jackass. But that's the difference between me and Rich.
That's because you're nicer. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I think the Leviathans. Yeah, they weren't
Please
so
don't.
bad.
It's been really, I'm really enjoying it at the moment because you're kind of getting into, I guess, episodes that, aren't those kind of big fan favorites. That there are some stories, when you recently had the thing with the Campbells, and
Right.
you saw how quickly they got ushered off because they didn't work. So
Yeah.
I'm really liking and appreciating the fact that you are really honest when something doesn't work, and that you
Yeah.
are kind of as
Yeah.
mystified as the rest of us about some storylines and choices that are
Yeah.
made. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
would be nothing more tedious than it just acting like one huge advert for the show, and it doesn't feel that way at all.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
really appreciating that, the honesty.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's interesting, and it's interesting to see too, like where we have our own opinions, and it's fun to see where it lines up with what the popular fan opinion is,
Sure.
or where it doesn't line up with. Where there's an episode where like, we didn't really love this one, and then you find out it's actually fans love that episode, and then you
Yeah.
kind of give it a relook, and you're like, oh, okay, okay, maybe I missed that. Um, or even like the episode about fairies that
Hmm.
Ben Edlund wrote this last season 6. We didn't
Yeah.
When we watched it, we didn't get it. And then
I don't
after
get
we
it.
talked to Ben, we liked it more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ben explained it. It made more sense to us. Um, but just now we did the season 6 wrap up,
Hmm.
and and that some of the people in Patreon were, having like, oh my God, I love that episode. And it wasn't an episode we were going to vote for. It's interesting to
Mm.
me to see what episodes people are like, it's one of my favorites. And it makes you reconsider, you
I
know.
think sometimes as well they're watching from a slightly different, a different point of view. The fairies thing, I think it was because Dean had some good lines, wasn't it? They like the Dean kind of stuff, and
Right.
maybe, I mean, for me, that episode didn't really land,
It didn't land,
but
no.
maybe it was because I wasn't watching it as someone who was kind of enjoying all of Dean's lines. It's like
Yeah.
I think Jensen's great, but I'm not like that Dean girl that's going to be hanging on. Oh my god, that's the one where he did that.
Right,
I'd
right, right.
struggle to remember.
Right,
It's
right. Or like Richard has a problem with like when Dean, it seems, feels out of character when Dean is sort of like too jokey, you
Yeah.
know, and not his masculine self, or makes like weird sort of like, well, I like girls, so Rich doesn't like
Yeah.
that, which I understand, but at the same time, Jensen's super funny when he does that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it depends what
Absolutely. He's
you're
hilarious.
into, I guess. Um, but with the fairy one, it was interesting because just Ben, I didn't realize that fairies are their own like mythological genre, and you can be fans of that, and it's just different than what I thought a fairy was, and that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. I didn't realize it was like a thing, So, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
such
People
a
were
fan of
taking it
it.
really seriously.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that was a genre. So that was interesting to me.
You're always going to offend something. There's always going to be something. I mean, there's that tendency that everybody that watches it and assumes, that they're watching it in the right way. But, your
Totally.
understanding is, I mean, I know recently you had the thing where people were like, I can't believe that they're saying that Death Steel's a thing. And it was like,
I know we got.
one side of fandom were just like, yes. And the other side of fandom were just like, no, no, you can't say that. You
Period.
don't say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And it's
What?
insane that just the way somebody perceives a piece of fiction is
Yeah.
so controversial. It's insane. But I love that you guys were buying into that. And
Well, also we just like it's funny because like we heard about that. I didn't see it any of the
mm,
I don't read any of that stuff, but
no,
our producer Steve told us that like there was a big sort of interaction about it, big reaction to
yeah,
it, and someone had suggested that we planned to talk. We didn't even plan to talk about it. It just sort of naturally came up because for us it was hard to ignore. It felt like the writers were writing to it.
absolutely,
And so
absolutely.
and it's not even like I don't think we even said the word Destiel. It was like I don't really care about that. I'm just
Yeah, it
saying
was
on
like
the
a
screen, what
couple.
I'm
It felt
seeing
like
is
a
that
couple.
they look like
Yeah,
a couple that's
yeah,
bickering. That's what it looks like to me. And I
yeah,
just thought it was interesting. We can't not talk about that as a thing because it is, a big thing. But we hadn't planned on it or anything. We hadn't planned on
yeah.
talking.
I felt
Um,
that's the thing that they kind of lean into in the show. They lean into that with Sam and Dean as well, where they kind of there's parts where Bobby's saying you guys are bickering like a married couple.
yes, or they'll
So
go
it's
into
just
they'll check into a hotel and they're like, "Are you,
yeah,
together?"
absolutely. There's the one with the kid was like, two
Yeah,
queens that one, and
yeah,
or
yeah,
asking if they're antiquing. They've
yeah.
always leaned into that because you've got two attractive guys, and it's
Right.
hard to not
Yes.
make those jokes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it just it was
Who are on paper
amusing.
the straightest characters ever? You know what I mean? That's why it's kind of funny,
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
but yeah, but I get it. I mean, every fandom is like that. As a person, you're like that. You're like, oh my God, I love this. Movies. You'll say, I love this movie, and someone's like, I hated it. You're like, how could you hate that? You're passionate about what you like or what you believe. If I say, oh,
Absolutely.
Rainbow's my favorite radio record, someone's like, oh, I hate that record. Like, how would you fucking hate that record? I would be upset.
Yeah, you're
You know,
naturally defensive about the
yeah,
things you love.
yeah, but what you believe in, yeah,
But it's
yeah.
I think I like that you are picking up on those things and that you are
Mhm.
saying it. And I mean, it's got to be a chips for where they may scenario you because you're giving an honest opinion. But
Yeah, yeah,
you're never going to please everybody because every viewer is watching it through their own eyes.
yeah.
But for
I
me,
think
who's neutral about that kind of, you know, I'm very much a text, not a subtext person when it comes to supernatural. Until they tell me
right,
that I'm not sitting there fan theorizing about what that look meant or what that look didn't mean or whatever. I'm
right,
just like, just tell me the story. So,
yeah. And I think
I
that
wasn't really kind of bothered either way by that kind of side of it. And like I said, I felt they played it up in the same way with Sam and Dean. But yeah, it's certainly quite eye opening to see the how passionate people were about that.
my God, it's so funny. And Rich and I don't have an agenda, and it's
No,
not propaganda. We're just like two guys experiencing it for the first time, going like, "Huh, that's." I noticed that too, and had a reaction to that. Um,
yeah,
but it's fun. It's also fun to watch. I mean, their relationship is fun to watch. Don't judge it. Certainly,
there's
I'm down for it, but it's just
and
funny.
yeah, and it's whatever kept people watching. And this is the thing, whether people were
Yeah,
watching it because they wanted those two together or because they enjoyed them as, you know, brothers in arms or whether they were people who were, all about the brothers, all
Right.
those things, as long as it kept people hooked and it kept the show on air for
Right.
15 years,
Yeah.
you know, it
Yeah.
had to have those controversies. Otherwise, people would get bored really quickly. It's
Yeah.
those kind of things that lead off to people in fandom with, fanfic and fan
Yeah.
art and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Which
yeah,
is cool. It's all
it's been a
part of
new
it.
thing,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, I feel like we can't talk about SB now without touching on Kings of Con because I know, funny enough, I still come across fans who don't really know what the podcast is, who aren't listening to it yet. People who are newer, they're very much from the show side of stuff.
Right. Right.
So, Kings of Con, tell people what Kings of Con is.
Kings of Con is there's a podcast that Rich and I do where it's just more Rich and I being ourselves and having a chat. And you're almost basically in on a phone conversation between me and Rich. So it's just us being funny. It's called Kings of Con, sort of an offshoot of the sitcom that we did called Kings of Con, about our life on the convention circuit. Early on, our podcast, it started during lockdown, and it was called "And My Guest is Richard Spate," where every week my guest was Richard Spate, and then it turned into Kings of Con under that brand, because that's ultimately what it is. Yeah, so it's Rich and I sort of playing into the characters that we that we are on stage. He's kind of a crab apple, and I and I'm sort of the brunt of his jokes, and my neurotic self. And we just ramble for an hour or so. We used to have guests, but now it's me and him, and it's super fun and funny. If you haven't listened to it, I would tell everyone to run to their podcast machine and check it out.
Absolutely. It's just good company. It's a real, I guess, because I've known you guys for so long as well, your voices are so familiar and stuff like that. And it is, Rich being curmudgeonly and you
Yeah,
being long suffering and him
yeah,
disappearing for ages. And it is like being a fly on the wall with you guys. And
yeah,
it's a nice thing to just have on. If I'm kind of just working or we have it on in the background, it's just like a
yeah,
really nice kind of comforting thing to have.
yeah.
And it's
Good.
also hilarious.
That's good. Good.
It's very funny.
Yeah, yeah. We
Definitely.
enjoy it. The hardest part about it is just like finding the time to do it. But we,
Sure.
we really enjoy doing it.
Do you think we'll get Hank back on at any point?
Yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah.
Hank's raring to go.
Sure.
Yeah. Again, we just need to schedule it. But yeah, Hank
Yeah.
will be back.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
So as far as Kings of Con, the show as it is, obviously, everything went very quiet on the film. There was a bit of talk about that, and then that's kind of, I
Yeah.
guess,
I
been
wrote.
shelved. Well, Matt kind of was talking about it when we spoke to him back in December, I think it was, and he was sort of saying, "Oh, Kings of Con's still alive. It's still very much alive." So
I mean, in my
how
mind,
alive is it?
it is. Uh, I wrote a script during lockdown. Uh, there was a horror or a script, kind of a horror
Mm.
film with all these people in it, and I was really jazzed about it. And then it just kind of didn't go anywhere. And um, and I'm constantly talking to Rich about what direction do we want to go? What do we want
Mm.
to do? Um, and so I think at some point we will, if it's like I
Yeah,
said, scheduling, it's getting Rich's brain to sort of focus on this. It's a lot of different things, but the
yeah,
characters are very much alive. And like when I wrote that script, it was like really easy to do because those voices are in
yeah,
there. And so it's fun to write to that. So we're kind of like we're ready to do something. We just have to decide what it is. We have a couple different ideas, whether or
yeah,
not it's be under the Kings of Con with the Kings of Con characters or whatnot. But
sure,
Matt's not wrong. It is alive, and I think it'll be at some point. We just need, we need Rich's, uh, yeah, yeah. We need to sort of, Rich's son. Rich would tell you like it was great, it's fun, moving on, but I think
yeah.
it's still there's still a possibility.
Yeah, I asked him about it. I think I'd asked you about it at con, and you were kind of like, "Yeah, it's really alive," and there's the likelihood of a film. And I interviewed him right afterwards. He was like, "I think it's dead," and I was just like,
Uh, yeah,
"Which
yeah.
is weird."
Welcome to my world.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. So yeah, to me, it just was so fun. It was we
mm,
were so proud of what we did. and I'm not ready to call it done, So
Good.
you
A
know,
movie would be great. That would be so much fun.
yeah, it'd be so fun, so
But
fun.
especially with the horror element, because I think that the thing you have is, like I said, there's so many new fans who they know you guys as the guys from the show, they know you guys as the guys from the conventions, but they're not really necessarily in the kind of Kings of Con world because the show's not been easily available as it for a long
Right,
time. Is the
right,
thing.
right.
So if you had like a horror kind of element, like a supernatural element, then that would be a really good kind of tag to kind of
Yeah,
bring those fans in. That would be
yeah,
really cool,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I'm sort of I've opened it back up and I'm sort of giving it a pass through the script, kind of updating it because there were some elements of it that were very 2020.
Yeah,
So I'm updating the script. And I talked to Rich about it. I'm like, let me get your eyes on this when I'm through
yeah.
editing it. And he's like, all right, all right. So
Cool.
yeah,
I
fingers.
just wonder where those charact's would actually be now, it's
Yeah, exactly.
because like obviously a lot's happened, there's change in the world, but like cons have changed as well, and they were very much a product of cons at that time. It's something that Beth and I talked to Matt about with how much kind of crazier cons were. I think there was a Kings of Con about it recently as well, about the old style kind of cons with Osric with his costumes and
Right, right, right.
how kind of crazy it was
Drinking our
something that
faces
like I
off.
just kind of talked about with Matt that things were just it was just a little bit wilder. It was it was pre-COVID, so no one was worried about getting anyone's face,
Yeah, and everything
and I
felt
think just
really, yeah, new. It was like our honeymoon phase,
yeah, absolutely.
we were all
Family camp, as
partying
we
with each
called
other
it.
every night, and we don't do as much of that anymore.
Yeah,
But yeah, there were a couple years there in the teens where we, acted like teens.
yeah. It's just interesting to know what Bennett and Slate might be like. Have they grown up? That
Yes,
would be
exactly, exactly. How much they have and how much they haven't.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
keep our fingers crossed that something comes of that. That would be
Okay, good.
really, really lovely.
Thank you.
I'm here. I'm awake.
How are we doing for
We've got
time?
unlimited. I had a bit of a crisis
Are we
halfway
cool?
through,
Okay.
which is
I
why I
just wanted to
vanished.
lovely. Okay, I wanted to talk to Rob about
Yeah, but you can leave
music.
whenever you want. Like
Da-
unlimited minutes
Me?
doesn't mean he has to stay.
I was
No.
gonna say if I go, then it's not it's just it's just Rob talking to someone who's not saying anything. It drives me crazy with this. I just yeah. Occasionally we'll talk, but
This is not my
just
thing. I'm
jumps
tech
into it with a
support.
zinger that makes everyone laugh, and then it's quiet. So music, obviously, we had in while NashCon was on, you dropped a single,
Yeah, yeah.
which was
Moon
really
Mood.
great surprise. So
Yeah,
is that gonna? I mean, I know at the time that was just your way of dealing with the kind of shit show of what was
yeah,
going on in the
yeah,
world,
yeah, yeah.
your reaction to it. But is that part of an album? Can we
Yeah, I
expect
think it
more
will
solo
be.
stuff?
Yeah, it definitely will be. I've got a ton of songs that I've been writing over the last 3 or 4 months, and
Mhm.
I'm uh, so I'm putting together a solo record that I'll be doing this year, and then I've also got songs with Loud and Swain that we're getting together to work on next month. So we're going to get together,
Cool.
which is great because we don't normally get a chance to do that anymore. But
Yeah,
we're going to get together all in person and work on these songs. So hopefully there'll be a band record soon, and there'll be a solo record
brilliant.
of mine soon as well. But yeah, I've just like Moon Mood was one of those things where like I sent it to um, Zach, who now is Camila, and she was like, "This is good to go. I think you should put this
Yeah,
out." So she mastered it, and we put it out, and um, so yeah, I just hate the idea of like songs that I feel inspired by or I'm proud of, like sitting on the shelf. I just hate that
yeah.
feeling. So I'm eager to get these songs out in whatever way. Um, but it looks like it's all moving forward. So hopefully
Cool.
soon I'll be able to